Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Distance Dilemma podcast. My name is Shaun, and I'm in Dublin, Ireland, and this is Imran. He is in Thun, Switzerland. This is our long distance friendship podcast. This is episode number 41. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to kick things off as we have been doing for the last while. Where our out of context weekly scenarios. This is the part of the show where me and Imran give each other sections of our week out of contrast, and out of context, and the other person has to
Hmm.
guess what happened. So, Imran, what is your out of context weekly scenario?
Okay, so getting the bus with a samurai.
Getting the bus with a samurai. Were you coming from work or like were you,
Yeah, I was
you're coming from, yeah, so you weren't coming from home, I'm assuming.
no, I was leaving work.
Did someone gift you a samurai?
No, that would be cool though.
Yeah, I was like, that's some tip, literally. um, what is it? Is this a real sword, by the way? It's not like a toy.
I said samurai, by the way. Just,
Samurai,
just, yeah, yeah.
like a samurai sword.
I didn't say samurai sword. That's what I'm trying to hint at.
Is samurai? So I'm assuming this isn't a sword, then, is it?
No,
Okay. Oh, is this a fish?
no, no, no.
Okay, first I need to crack.
Wait, first of all, can you explain to me what a samurai is? Do you know what a samurai is?
It's a fucking sword.
You're kind of wrong. You're right, but you're also wrong. I'll give you
Okay,
that. Okay.
so
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there is. So it's definitely something Japanese, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Not to say, not to like. That's not. That's like saying, oh, Dwyer. Oh, yeah, it's probably Irish, right? That's
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not like being. I'm not trying to be racist with that. Something.
Okay.
Okay, is it a character or something? Like, is it like a pop figure or something?
No, no. Okay, I'll say what I said again at the start, okay?
Right.
I got the bus with a samurai.
Oh, okay. Is the samurai a person?
Yes.
Okay, so did you like get on a random bus and there was like a samurai on the bus, like on the way home from
Yes.
work?
Yes. You got the context right, okay.
Okay,
So
right.
I was getting the bus home from work, like Sean said there, yeah. And I just like the bus is packed, and I was like, oh, I just really want to see it. Like my legs are tired. I had like an eight and a half hour shift or something like that. So I was looking around the bus, and I saw a little spot up the front, and I was like, grand. And I saw someone wearing like kind of like a straw hat, but I don't know if you've ever seen actually more like a bamboo hat. So I don't know if you've ever seen a samurai,
Yeah,
but it's like a cylinder shape. And I seen the back of that, it was only like half a second you seen it, and I sat down anyway. Asked the person could I sit there. He's like, grand, sat down, and then I was on my phone, and then I kind of like was just observing the bus and stuff like that. But I didn't
taking in
realize
the experience of the bus.
like taking in the experience. But she was in like a full samurai outfit, and like I don't know if okay, a samurai is essentially like an elite warrior. Like they wear this like clothing, but it's called like like using like a samurai sword, like a
Mhm.
samurai armor. But like she was like fully kitted out. Like it looked like she had either been from like I don't know if she's living here or but she was like holding a tarpoon with like a cover on it. She had like the straw hat on her head. She had like some kind of like traditional samurai Japanese kind of clothing. She was wearing like very like handmade leather sandals. And like first of all like I kind of like I looked at her and I was like, How like are you on this bus at half eight in context in the middle of Switzerland in Thun of all places? Because you've been to
Mhm.
Thun. It's a bit far out from Zurich. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you've
yeah. It's not
traveled
like
a
there's a
good bit
Comic Con
from.
nearby or something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
not like just a Comic Con nearby. Like it's not a city. It's a town. So I was just like looking at her like trying to explain. And then she just smiled at me and I smiled back, and then I walked away. But it was kind of funny because I recently bought a game on PlayStation, and it's like all about like Japan and like samurai swords. And Nicola was like saying to me last night, like, that's such a convenience. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's like the two worlds just met in real life in that one situation, and it was like fucking hell. Like my mind was just baffled by the whole
It
situation.
would have been a lot funnier if you said, "Oh, I bought a bus simulator and there was a samurai bus driver or something."
My life is not that sad. Yeah, it's like Chef Simulator comes home and then cooks food and then plays a game of playing chef.
Yeah, just like
Um,
Simpsons Hit and Run, but just like with the
l-
bus, or GTA, just
l-
robbing the bus and just strolling around in it.
pretty much, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your out of context scenario?
My out of context weekly scenario is smashing at midnight.
Okay. This is like on the line where like Simone could like potentially get pissed off at me if I say something right now.
Yeah, that's kind of and
Yeah,
there's a very specific reason why I chose the wording that I chose as well.
yeah. Okay, I'm presuming it has zero to do with sex. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's no sex
yeah. There's
involved.
no sex involved. Okay,
Not in this
so
scenario.
not in this scenario. Okay, smashing at midnight. Okay, did you make like did you make like a smash burger?
No,
Like, did you? We don't know. Has it anything to do with food?
no.
No.
Well, not directly. Like it's not kind of about food, but food was involved in some form, but it's not like about the food.
Smashing at midnight. Smashing at midnight. What do you do at midnight? Like that doesn't include sex and smashing. That's just what I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Where you say like you're, it's not about food, but it was in the context of food.
Yeah, it's like it's not about the food. Like the food's not the scenario, so to speak, but the
Was it
food was
like you
there.
were like, did you like say to like Simone, "Oh, you look smashing" or something like that, or
No,
like is that a compliment in any way, or
no.
no?
Simone was there for
Were
just
you
for
watching football? Were you watching
no,
like any kind of football? No.
no.
Jesus, you left me on that. Can I have a clue?
This is probably not going to help, but we were in bed when this happened,
Man, you're not helping
and
me
it's
at
not
all.
about
This
sex,
like,
and it's not about sex.
how is this not about sex? You know what I mean?
It's not. I swear it's
Does
not.
this have anything to do with Xena?
No,
Okay, you are watching the Wire, yeah? Has it
yeah,
anything to do with the Wire?
no.
No. Oh man. Okay, give me two more guesses and then you can explain.
I think I need to throw you a bone here because it's a very
Yeah,
hard
man.
one.
Like I thought my ones are like bad with the suicidal sheep and stuff, but
Well,
this is hard.
my thought process was if he's gonna the first two you gave me were very dry, so I said, you know what, this is one I can give you that would be quite dry.
Yeah. Okay, okay.
So as a result, the next day we couldn't we couldn't do things as we normally would do in the house and like in our lives because of what happened.
Electricity, like the electricity went off in the house.
No,
No.
you're veering towards the right path though. You've got warmer there with that one.
Did the water? Oh, but that's connected to electricity, so that wouldn't be a.
So just think about what I said. So smashing at midnight, and the path you went on there about the electricity going. Nothing to do. The electricity didn't go. Nothing to do with but you're on like the right path.
Okay, again, it's gonna sound wrong. Were you buying something in the bedroom at 12 p.m.? What can I say in this
Uh,
situation without it sounding sexual? Like anyone who's gonna be listening to this in the morning is gonna be like, "How?" And understand from my situation, how is this not
Someone's
gonna be
gonna be
anything to
listening to
do?
this on the bus, getting hot flashes. You know.
Literally, literally. Okay, you're smashing something in the bedroom, aka not Simone. It's either has to be with like an electrical box, like a TV or something in that environment. That's my last guess. And then I give
No,
up. I can't
no,
think
it's
of
not
anymore.
that
Okay,
one. It's
I'll
not
take
that
the
one.
L this week.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Right, so this is quite dramatic. So me and Simone were in bed Saturday night. You know, me and Simone are wild characters. We're in bed by 10:30. So we're in bed and it's about quarter to midnight, and all of a sudden we hear a massive thud, 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 and loads of smashing.
What does
And
Xena do? Of
no, Xena was in her bed beside. I think she actually might have been at the end of our bed. So we thought someone was breaking into our house.
course.
But what actually happened was we came downstairs to our kitchen and our entire kitchen cabinet had fallen off the wall.
The whole kitchen cabinet came off the
Yes.
wall.
Yes.
Oh
So
shit.
any of our like so basically all of our plates, all of our glasses, all of our mugs all smashed to bits.
Oh.
The whole like thing fell off the wall and everything just smashed and was in bits. And where the food came into it, and that was obviously we store food in there as well. And there was jars of like sugar, flour, vinegar, jalapenos, stuff like
Oh,
that, that all got smashed on the floor as well. So when we
oh,
walked in, there was a and this is only like less than like we thought someone might be breaking in, so we gave it like 5 minutes to hear if we heard anything else. Walked downstairs, and the smell was like a smell of like apple cider vinegar, sugar, honey. Like it basically smelled like a really acidic caramel. Is
yeah.
probably the only way I could describe it. Um, so yeah, it was nasty, and so then we and how it affected us the next day was obviously like when it happened, we like tidied up a little bit as much as you can, and
Yeah,
we
because
just
it's so
moved on.
late, you can't really do much.
Yeah,
Like,
we're both like half asleep. We're both in the kitchen. I'm in my boxers, Simone's in our like like in a t-shirt and our bottoms. Like we're kind of like we just kind of cleared it so we could walk in to the room and like pushed. We basically picked up any food so that didn't like stink or smell overnight. But like it because it was like flour and like I had baking soda there as well, so like there was a lot of chemicals going on, and it basically turned into a caramel all over the floor.
okay.
Yeah, it was nasty to say the least. And then it affects us the next day because a lot of our food got spoiled. We had to throw a lot of stuff out.
Did this happen on
Uh,
Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday night, so so all
Okay.
day. So we ended up yesterday having to go to IKEA and spend a couple of £100 on like literally a brand new, like mostly a new kitchen and plates, mugs, glasses,
Were you
all that
able to
sort
get
of
the
stuff.
cabinet back up on the wall, or?
No, there was no point. Like it was all broken. Like it literally all
Oh,
just like
okay.
like it all broke apart. Like the doors were salvageable. But we just decided to go for it because Simone was kind of saying there's no point in putting the exact same cabinets up again because it'll probably just happen again.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. And like,
so
is that kind of the thing? Is like, who's to blame in this situation? Like, is it like, did you put them cabinets up,
no,
or
no.
is it that there was too much weight in it, or is it that the walls are old, or like?
Well, honestly, it could be a mix of everything. To be honest, with you, because
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it was Saturday, so we like Saturday night, so we had just filled the presses back up. Like we do our shopping on a Saturday morning, like so we
yeah.
just filled the shopping back up with food. But like we filled the shopping up loads of times in that press. Like and you can also be like, oh, it could have been a problem with being installed, but it stood up for a year and a half, and there was no problem with it.
Yeah,
Um, so there's no one really to blame. Like not me and Simone
yeah,
didn't put up. I don't want to out the person who put it up on here, so I'm not gonna say who put it up. Like and this person has also done a lot for us, a lot more good.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's just
So like
it's just an inconvenience, isn't it?
yeah, so like all our food at the moment, stuff that like that didn't get wrecked, like stuff that was like individually packaged, like crisps and chocolate and stuff. Thankfully, none of that. There was one or two. Like the worst part was like the jalapenos and like the beans,
Oh, is
stuff
the
like that,
kitchen a bit
smashing all
smelly
over the
still?
place.
Is
Yeah,
it?
so like it got to the point like where like we got up yesterday and like we spent like an hour cleaning it, and then all the like was left to be done was the floors, and I just said, how about I go get us McDonald's breakfast and you tidy and you like mop the floor because like it's not a two-person job to mop the floor, and I really felt like we just needed a Mackey's breakfast.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that is my
Times are
out of
tough.
context scenario for the week.
Not a fun weekend for Sean, so
No, like yesterday was fucking hell. It really like it was a horrible because like it's Sunday going to IKEA, like it was full of
yeah,
people, full of
yeah,
kids.
yeah. It's
I think
packed. It's packed.
when we moved in and we went to IKEA the last day, I think Simone just had a day annual leave and I was unemployed at the time. So like I think we just like went on a Tuesday at like 12 o'clock, so there was no one in it. Had a great time. Yesterday was nothing but stress. you know. And a couple of £100 that we were not planning on spending as well. So that's
I
always
know that
fun.
also sucks as well because you're not expecting to pay it as well, so it's kind of be a bit
Yeah,
frustrating.
it is
Yeah,
what it
it
is.
can be. It
And to
is
be
what it
fair,
is.
if it's gonna happen, like you would kind of want it to be this week because it's Black Friday week as we're recording.
Yeah,
So like there is some deals going on out
some
there,
deals. Yeah, 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 yeah. I
but
get you.
still definitely not ideal. But anyway, yeah.
No, no. We move. So I picked a topic for this week, and I put it into the group chat, and I felt like when I put it in originally that I didn't explain it well to Sean, but I'll probably explain it a bit better here. So the topic for this week is can you bond online? And this is kind of more situated around me and Sean's friendship, but also as well as people and family that you have abroad that you might only contact them through like FaceTime calls, phone calls, letters, postcards, etc. So this is more about like is there a good side to it? Is there a bad side to it? And what are things that you notice that have changed within your relationships with maybe people you haven't seen in such a long time, and like even like you can maybe talk about when you came here and like we hadn't seen each other in a couple of months since the last time we saw each other. So
Mm.
that's kind of where I'm going with this
Yeah, no,
kind of
I think it's a
topic.
really
Yeah.
like I actually like think it's a like perfect topic for the podcast. I think it
Yeah.
like it hits all of our kind of like
Yeah.
if I think it fits everything that the podcast is about,
Is. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's something I have quite a bit of experience in with you and
Mm.
with other friends as well.
Yeah. So like
Um,
let's look at like just initially like let's just look at, for example, let's use our friendship for example, right? And let's not use the podcast. We'll use the podcast in terms of like you can use examples, but like let's talk about essentially like how we contact keep in touch with each other like besides that. So
mm,
like I would say mainly like myself and you we use a lot of like voice messages, and we use, I'd say, obviously of course the podcast as well,
mm.
and then phone calls when we can because our lives are so busy. Do you think like there's stuff that we miss out on as well because you're not maybe able to like, because like I used to play football with you on Tuesdays, so
Mm.
like I would also see you at football, and then normally we'd meet up twice, three times a week when I was back at home as well. Do you think like our friendship has changed in terms of like keeping up to date with stuff on like a daily basis, or do you think that we're kind of still good on the same terms of keeping that up to date?
I think like day to day things um like what's going on in work and stuff can be a bit more of a challenge. I think like the big things that are happening in our lives, like like when like something like maybe too personal comes up that we can't talk about on the podcast, like stuff like that. I think we're still
Pretty good
really
at.
good on. Like I think like whenever stuff happens to me, you're one of the first people that I want to text and tell like talk to you about it. And that like hasn't really changed from when you were here. Like when you were here, it was the same, and the only difference being like instead of us meeting up and going for like a coffee or a walk or going to watch a film and talking about it, like it's in that kind of way. Like it comes up more in the form of voice notes, which like it isn't the same, but I feel like our actual relationship fundamentally hasn't changed. I think it can be a bit different in the context of like if you don't speak to, I think because we still speak to each other like multiple times a week, and then like we have this every week where like we'll talk to each other for like an hour consistently.
Yeah.
I think like that really helps in that. But when you do go like a little bit longer, like let's say it's somebody you only talk to like once a month, and you do miss out on like those kind of like bi-weekly updates, I think then that's where you start missing out. Like I know we said like we don't get into like super details about like what goes on in work, but like you might like catch the odd comment from one of us being like, oh, work's been stressful this week, but blah blah blah. Whereas like in like a summary at the end of the month, that sort of stuff might not come up, and then like when like those two people are do see each other in person again or do like even just talk, like that might not come up in the like manner or severity that it should, because
Mm.
I think especially like online, like it can be like such a thing to even like over voice notes in a private chat can be such a thing to be like, oh yeah, I'm grand. Like I actually had this with one of my friends this weekend where she had texted me out of the blue, and I actually had her on my mind. I kept meaning to give her a ring, like and like so much has happened between now and the last time that we like properly had a catch up, but it was also kind of difficult to just say that within the first like message or two, like so I do think like the fundamentals stay the same, but it's like those like little like nuances throughout that can be affected as time goes
Yeah,
by.
I think I agree with you there. Like the communication like hasn't changed. It's kind of still the same format that we had kept like when I was in Ireland as well. Especially because we also most of the time we lived very close to each other. I mean, like you'd only moved to Ballyfermot once I and me and Nicola had actually decided to emigrate. So it kind
Mm.
of, the time period like we'd never really been in terms of distance that far away from each other. So like we were always like a drive away, or like it was a right at one point where like we could even walk to each other.
Mm.
Um, so like I feel like in terms of keeping up to date with our personal lives, I think that's something that we're really good at. With the only thing that I'd say is probably that I think has changed is more like how we talk about TV and movies is not the same as it used to be. But that's personally because we're not in front of each other, so we can't really
Mm.
explain as much as possible. Like that is something that like I'm not like annoyed about or anything like that. It's just like I need to understand that it's kind of hard to come across into full detail when you're talking about things like that, because we're like most of our friendship over the next 4 years will more than likely will be like online. Like, and that's like kind of like I'm trying to like relate to a lot of my friends now. It's like because they I think some of them have this like idea that I'm coming back in like a year, but it won't be for 2 to 3. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
ideally, if you think about it. So I feel like I'm trying to find that kind of level with people to say like we're gonna keep our friendship, but our friendship is primarily gonna be online.
Mm.
So I think for me, I think the bad thing about like keeping a bond online is like how my relationship, and I've spoke about this before on the podcast, is like when I do return home, like how is that going to be different or the same to when you're younger? That's also a thing to do with age as well and growing up and adult responsibilities and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah,
I
it's
think
it's an interesting complexity to have for me, like personally.
yeah, I think like where the like you were saying about like kind of like how deep we go into like talking about like our interests in like for example like football and movies and TV and stuff. I think like those conversations always came about like maybe like half an hour into us actually hanging out. Like, because the first thing like
Yeah, yeah.
when we were together in person, like you'd say, "Oh, how are you?"
How are
Catch
you getting
up
on?
on.
On yeah,
And like I think like that's the space where we will like talk about that sort of stuff over voice notes, and when we're like chatting before and after we start recording the podcast and stuff. Whereas like because like we're when we're sending voice notes, it's like you're dropping into a day. Like it's like you're like dropping into 5 minutes of my day. If I send you a voice note that's 3 to 5 minutes, like it's like you drop into that, and
mm,
it's the same then when you send one back. It's like we kind of drop in and out of each other's days for a couple of minutes, like. And I just feel like because that will only kind of naturally like I'm sure there's, like there's people who do this, like but I like can't spend like week like a week's talk like on a voice note, like just because life is busy, you know. And I feel like the like natural kind of like expiry point for voice notes and like those type of conversations online just tends to be like those kind of like main headlines of what's going on in someone's life,
yeah,
whereas then like I feel then when I came over to Tune, then like I feel like once we had like caught up on those like elements of life, like a bit more like no, because it's different like when you're talking to somebody in person about these sort of things as well. Like you get a feel for the energy and you get a feel for like
definitely.
even tone of voice, or even when someone's saying something to you and like you can look at them in the eye and say these things. Like I feel like you know there's a bit more kind of like honesty in that, where
Hmm.
you can like at least like you can see more in whoever you're talking to about that
Yeah.
sort of thing rather than online, of course.
I think the energy thing is a big thing I noticed as well.
Mm.
Like, because like you could even like I'll give it like for an example, like you could meet me, like I come back home and like we both could be getting on very well, but like if my energy isn't matching yours, it can be like there's something wrong in the room that's like not
Mm.
being spoken about, and that genuinely could be like one of the person in the room is not like doesn't want to be there, or one of the people in the room maybe has stuff going on that they don't want to talk about. So like a lot of these like play a part, especially like me when I'm like going back to see some of my mates. Like of course you know them, like a
Mm.
big group of about 8 or 10 of them. Like when I'm meeting them, it's like it's all for me. It's like all very energy based about more than the actual conversations,
Mm.
because it's more like if you're actually happy to see me or like I'm happy to see you, then the energy levels are obviously high. But then there could be cases where like someone like let's just say one of my mates is having a bad day and then like I'm coming back for like 2 to 3 days, like they're coming out of their time to visit me, like do you know what I mean, to visit me even though they're not in the brightest of moods. Like it's more there's like different complexities to keep the bond thing there. That's why I think more importantly recently, like I've kind of sound like a broken clock here, but like I'm trying to say like most of the time, like now recently, I've just been trying to reach out to friends and make sure that the connection is still there for when I like do return home, if that makes sense. And I feel like that a friendship does work both ways when you're living abroad, but I feel like there is more of a, there in some waiver in my mind, I could ideally just get completely new friends and forget all my friends at home. Like that could happen, and you know what I mean. Like, and potentially they could do the same back at home in Ireland. Like we said before, you meet different groups of people. Like I'm still not friends with a lot of people that I was when I was 12 years old. I'm sure you're not either. So,
Mm.
that's how life is. You just grow in and out of friendships. But I feel like online as a basis, like I feel like we're in such a lucky position, not just with the podcast, but like the fact that we have such accessibility to like FaceTime. Like can you imagine like 30 years ago trying to keep a friendship
Yeah, but
going?
it's
Like,
a privilege to like be able to
yeah,
sit here and do this and be able to like tell each other about our weeks. Like it is it's a privilege that like might not seem like it, but like
yeah.
there's man, there's people starving, like there's people getting bombed, like like this is nothing, like this is a privilege,
Yeah,
like
definitely. And I think we're like I'm lucky in a situation that I still do feel like I've got a good group of friends from not from growing up, but just in my life at the moment. So I feel like I'm in a good spot. Sorry, just while I'm living here, but I feel like there's like a basis on me to keep a lot of friendships going. But that's like a personal thing. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Like I feel like that's something that maybe you feel differently about because you know you're living at home and your accessibility to your friends is a bit similar. But like we talked about before, like it's you like you were saying there, your friend, you had her on your mind, but she just threw you a text and that's
mm.
how the conversation kind of got flown again.
Yeah, and I think like one thing to like kind of be wary about as well with like what you were talking about there is like when you do like meet, like I would say like for you when you come home as well, like say there's like people who maybe like you haven't spoken to super frequently while you've been away, but when you come home, like they always make that effort to come out and see you, and like it can be like also like a bit of pressure to like because when you come home you're always like super busy because you're trying to fit in as many people as you can, like so you only like really get like 2 3 hours with people, like and I
Yeah,
think there could also be an onus on people to like when they have those 2 or 3 hours, which they don't want to like upset you too much, or they don't want to you know bring like they don't want to bring you down while you're home. They want to kind of
yeah,
only present opportunistic things, or they only want to have like like they only want to have happy conversations, and they won't talk about kind of like the deeper things that are going on in their life, which is like a very selfless thing to do,
definitely,
but like something we've always kind of said to each other is like we'd be more pissed off at each other if we didn't tell each other what was going on
definitely.
as well. Like
Yeah.
it's like kind of similar to what I was saying there. It's like, no, it's a privilege to be able to sit in the mud and to know and to understand and to be there to help, or to
Definitely.
know that like help is going to be needed at some point. Like
Hmm.
it's a privilege, and like we've said it loads of times, but like there like just to kind of like flip it on its side, like there might be people who wouldn't feel that way, and when they do see it will only want to be like, oh yeah, like I'll only tell you the good things, and like the
Hmm.
bad
Hmm.
things can wait until another time, like which can also like seem then when you do come home, or like when you do like have a bit more of a DMC with them, it can feel like a bigger distance then in that way, because like you feel like you'll find out about much more that you didn't know about before.
Definitely. And I think like there are a lot of things plays parts in that like time period for me when I'm coming home on holidays to Ireland plays a major part. Environments, most of the time I'm meeting them in public spaces, so there's different situations that maybe they don't want to bring the environment or the energy down again. Is like
Yeah,
say if I'm
it's
meeting up with the lads, like there's 4 or 5 of them, you know what I mean? Like of course I might talk a bit personal with someone, but maybe someone of it genuinely might just be like, talking about our interests, sports, how's the family, the basics, the
yeah,
standards, that's what they say. But I feel like overall, I think the idea of like being able to bond online is like a lot stronger for like our generation now, and I feel like we're in a lucky and like you said, they're privileged spot with all these opportunities to like still keep in contact, like other that be through games, the podcast, WhatsApp, send each other memes, like so like there's still ways you can keep like connections with people. Like I even have like one of my mates that I went to school with, and like we don't really talk that much. Like I only really talk to him when I see him in person, but we still send each other memes every single week.
mm.
Do you know what I mean? So like
And I
it's
think
it's funny. Like and like if I know if I met this person like because he came over last year. Like if I met him, it's like I saw him yesterday. Do you know what I mean? So like it's different situations and different friendships for different things. Like just because
I
I feel like there is sometimes like pressures on like people to like, oh, we have to talk about this. Like, not really. Like, just sometimes you have friends for different things in your life.
yeah,
You've
for
got
sure.
friends that like are close friends. You've got friends that are acquaintances. You've got drinking friends. You've got friends you might go to sports or gigs with. So like, I feel like a lot of time like some people try to like say like what's the true identity or what's the true meaning of a friendship, but like I feel like friendships are very varied across the board, and it kind of like depends on you on how like much you want to develop the friendship. Like of course me and you are close because we've had like a lot of similar upbringings, so we can kind of relate on that besides all our other interests, if you know what I mean,
Yeah,
like sport, TV, movies and stuff like that.
yeah, and like for sure, like I think you can see it with, for example, like we have like friends that we went to school with together, like and they would have saw a version of the two of us that was different to a version of us from college, that's different to a version that is in that we go to work, Like, it's
Hmm.
like, like kind of like that thing of like having different masks or different
Yeah,
faces in different environments
yeah,
and stuff, like, because
it's
I know
definitely
when
true.
I'm in work, like I can be a bit of a different person, not in terms of being like an asshole around, like, but I can be a bit more standoffish. I'm very like, I try to do things by the book as much as I can. Like, I'm just a bit more kind of cautious about the scenario. And like college, I was a bit the same. Whereas like, when it comes to like just like meeting up with like friends, like with you and stuff, and like when I'm with like people who I've made friendships with outside of those environments, I can be a bit looser. I can be a bit more kind of jolly in a way. Whereas
Hmm.
like, when I'm in environments where like I know like, there's potential for like, dismissal or warnings, or like there's more implications. I can just be a bit of a different person. It's like, it's not like a mad different thing. It's not like I'm trying to be, a dictator or trying to be like a micromanager or something like that. It's more just like being
Hmm.
a bit more self-aware of like, the conversations that get had, like, and like an example of that would be like talking about like sex and stuff, like, like it's not a conversation that comes up a lot with your coworkers or with your like, your peers in college and stuff like that. But like, I've had many open conversations about sex with my friends, like, like like friends like you. I think that's how I'll phrase it. Like, but like, I'm
Nicola
not
and
talking.
Simone, we're not talking about our sex lives, I promise.
That's not what we stopped the podcast to do. But like, it's like those like different type of conversations that will come up. Like, and I just, sex was kind of like one of the first things that like came to my head there. Like, but there's loads of other contexts
Yeah, no,
of
I
that as
understand. I
well.
get what
Like,
you're
it
saying.
can be sport, it can be like, family things, it can be all these other little things that kind of like build the persona that somebody else knows you as, and it can be a
That's
very
what,
self-aware
yeah.
thing.
And like that's why I think like like authenticity in yourself. I feel like the only person that really sees you in that manner is definitely your girlfriend, because I might act a different way with Nicola than like of course like I'm gonna act with you, and it's the same with you. Like if you're near with Simone and it's just you two alone, like you're not gonna act, you know, the same way you would when you're with me, for example, or same way you would to any other friends that are girls. You know what I mean? So like that's why I feel like the only person that really truly sees yourself besides yourself is your probably your partner, because you spend most of the time then with them.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Like
Yeah.
you've opened and share things with them more than you would with anything. Not just talking about sex class. And just that, Sean was just giving an example.
Yeah.
The hole's getting bigger. The hole's getting bigger.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like the whole like bonding thing, it doesn't like, I've had like two examples of this where like another long distance friend, um outside of like us. I have a friend Lewis in London who I've spoken to you about before, who's another
Yeah,
musician. I met Lewis at a gig in Whelan's in 2020, like 2 months before the pandemic, and like we just swapped details, and like for I'd say like a good 2 years we FaceTimed each other like once a week and just were chatting and waffling away, and like we still keep in touch, probably not as much as we should now. Like, it's been a couple of months since I've talked to him, but we still keep up with each other online, and like we're always like kind of like checking in like what's going on, because we're both musicians, so we're always like checking in on each other's projects. And I usually would send him stuff to listen to as well, and be like, oh, I'll get like feedback on songs or mixes and stuff, like, and
yeah.
like that like was a pretty much purely online thing. Like, I've gone and stayed in Lewis's apartment and stuff, and I've like, I've gone to see Lewis's shows in London and stuff, and I jumped up on stage with him for a gig as well. Like, and like there was a lot there where like, Lewis knew, and again like it's like he knew a different version of me, because like that was like the version of me that was like kind of very vulnerable as an artist, and like talking about like, what I want to do. And like he was a massive help. I like to think that we helped each other in a way of like, we could talk about our goals, and like, give each other tough love in some instances, and be like, yeah, like, you're gonna have to do this and you're gonna have to do that. And you
Yeah.
know, it became like a really like, nice relationship. And I feel like, we've now like, Lewis is like 2 or 3 years younger than me as well. So like once he kind of got into his final year of college and stuff, and I also did as well. Like, it becomes harder and harder to keep up. But like that relationship like meant quite a lot to me, and it still does as well. Like I
Yeah.
said, I probably don't keep in touch enough at this point, but there's I have another example. Sorry, I'll let you come in now, because I feel like I've just been talking for a
No,
little
no,
bit.
I'm just listening. Like I can't like that. Like I think that's why you're a good example there, because people come in and out of your life at different times. Like I'm in back in kind of really in contact with one of the guys I used to work with in TGI's, and like I feel like we actually have a really good friendship. And I have not seen this guy in probably over 6 years, but it's purely the whole our friendship at the moment has purely been online. And like in terms of like connection just through like WhatsApp, it's been like fairly strong, and like I feel like that's something that came into my life at like a certain time where maybe I needed it, and like
Mm.
maybe he did too, and like we were kind of laughing about that because like we're planning for him to come over this year, but like like I have people that I talk to on a regular basis that have not even like asked to come over, or like suggested like, oh, we should plan something for next year or whatever. And like here's the guy I'm talking to like 2 months, and like he's like willing to come over, and like he's a lot going on in his life and stuff like that. So like it's funny to think like people come in and out of your lives at certain points, and like who's not to say that Lewis will come back as like a strong, like just I using Lewis as an example, like a strong person in your life again. So like that's
Mm.
kind of like it's kind of the funny thing about like friendships, they come and go, and are really strong at certain points in your life that you sometimes you don't really have a control over. It just kind of happens
Yeah, and
naturally.
like these things happen. Like it's just the kind of the natural wave of life, you know.
Mm,
Like you said, that like I don't. I think like our generation in particular is like really good at understanding that like not everyone can be like close to you all the time, you know, and it
yeah,
kind of touches on what we were talking about like a week or two ago, where like I was saying like no, like to properly like listen to you and to properly take in what you're saying, sometimes you like the person who wants to listen has to be in the right headspace, and sometimes they have to be like they may not reach out, or they may like not go into those areas with somebody because they know they're not in the right headspace themselves, or they know that like it's not the right moment to go in to those kind of
yeah,
conversations. I think like that kind of like touches on that a little bit as well. Like, and we talked a bit more about that in detail on another episode, but it's just
yeah.
important to like note that as well. Like
Definitely, and I think overall on the topic, I think you can definitely still keep a bond online. I do think it though it just takes two people involved in the friendship to put an effort, and I think you'll be fine in the long run.
that's it. And I it's just there's one more I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
where I actually had this during COVID. There's a mutual friend of ours who I had like I knew them well from our friend group and like from other stuff before our like friend group as well,
Hmm.
and always got on well with them. Always was chit chat and stuff like that. But like during like COVID lockdown, I don't know how or what, I can't remember how or why now, but like we got into like such a like nice friendship online, and like it started off, and this is actually the start. I don't know if you'll know who I'm talking about when I kind of get to the end of this. You might do.
I think
Um,
I do, but go on.
but like basically, I don't know how it started, but like we would be waffling, talking, and like it became a thing where like we just send each other a video message a couple of times a day, like we'd just be having the same conversation over and like for days on end, like like just talking shite about work and COVID and like what was going on in our lives at the time. And like this literally went on for like I'd say like the guts of a year, where like we were just having nice casual conversations, and like we started to like meet up a little bit then outside of that. And now I haven't spoken to this person now in a little while, and they've actually moved out of Ireland. And I think the last time I spoke to them was when they left, and I haven't spoken to them since they left. Not for any bad reason, just because you lose touch with people over time, like
Mm.
But what came out of that was this person would constantly like we like I said we'd message each other a couple of times a day. It wasn't like we're glued to each other's phones. It was just kind of like on Snapchat checking in,
Yeah,
and they would always say, "Oh, sorry for the late reply," because they would be in work,
yeah. I
or
always do that.
yeah, and like that's grand. Like sometimes a few hours would go by and we'd forget what we were talking about, because it wasn't a voice note; it was Snapchat messages. So sometimes we'd forget what we were talking about, and yeah, this person would constantly open the messages with, "Oh, sorry for the late reply," and that ends up becoming the title of my first EP.
Oh
Because
yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
was
yeah.
like I was writing all those songs and like recording the songs and doing all like the bits for that at that time. And like when it came to like doing the title, that just kind of popped into. I just thought it was a cool title, but that's
Mm.
where that came from. It came from that like online bonds that like and that was in Ireland. Like that wasn't actually like us being on the opposite ends of the world or in different countries. Like she was on the opposite side of the bench to me.
Yeah, and it's funny like how different connections like that just kind of come. and pass within your life, and you never know. Like you could that friendship could rekindle in
Yeah, for sure.
4 or 5 years or next year. You don't even know how situations, or you can meet this person again. And
For
yeah,
sure.
it's an interesting topic, and I think it's definitely something that like we could explore deeper at like a later time in the podcast with different things on it. But I think overall, I think as it's more of a benefit now for us. I think to keep our friendship online, and like for other people as well. Like I feel like it's a good thing that we're able to still do this. So yeah. So swiftly moving on, I wanted to bring up the pop culture slash current affairs section. Now, before I start this isn't actually current. I thought it was, but it's just a reoccurring thing that kind of comes up in the news in Switzerland. And I think it's funny because like we don't really talk much about current affairs in Switzerland because to be honest, not really much goes on. There's not many murders or deaths or you know, politicians doing kiki ups, in a race. So I thought I'd read this out because I thought this was mad when I read it. So just bear with me now because it's a tiny bit long. I'll stop in between as well, and we
Okay,
can
go.
just yeah. Okay. So this is a news article from about 2010 to 2014. That's the time period where this all happened, okay? So, a halal butcher in Zurich was found guilty of a long-running fraud after authorities discovered he had sold roughly 3.1 tons of pork falsely labeled as halal veal which is like cow, to mostly Muslim customers between 2010 and 2013. The deception came to light when a Swiss food inspector during a routine check noticed the supposed veal's color and texture didn't match standard cuts, prompting lab tests that revealed it was pork. Okay, so investigators determined the butcher intentionally bought cheaper pork, relabeled it as veal, and sold it at a premium halal prices, earning tens of thousands of francs in illicit profit while exploiting customers' religious trusts. The court ruled his actions as constituted commercial fraud and false declaration, sentencing him to 180-day fines and ordering him to cover additional costs. The scandal caused significant outrage within the Zurich's Muslim community, who felt not only financially cheated but religiously violated, and it fueled calls for tighter halal certification and food safety oversight in Switzerland. Though the case was originally reported in 2014 and concerns events more than a decade old, it continues to resurface online and social media as of recent.
This one obviously
Do you
hits
not
close
think?
to home for Imran.
Yeah, no, but like, do you know? Oh, yeah, not really, but do you not just think that's mad? Like, some guy was buying like cheaper products and then selling it for this guy is a halal butcher. That's the thing that just stands out to me there. I just thought that was mental when I
Yeah,
read
it
it.
reminds me of the horse meat scandal in Tesco when from the Super
Yeah,
Bowl 2013.
exactly, like 2013.
It's giving that
Yeah,
energy. Yeah, I
like,
mean, it's just so fucked up, and that's really it's the thing. It's like you're just taking away people's choice there. I think that's like the big issue. That it's like it's I'm sure, I mean, if he's branding himself as a halal butcher, like I'm sure if I'm not sure the full context of this, but I'm sure if he is like a halal butcher shop, I'm sure he
yeah, he's
himself
Muslim,
must
yeah,
be Muslim or
yeah.
so to
Has
do that
family
like
or surroundings around the idea. I just thought that was mental, and when I was reading it as well, I was like, he only had 180-day fines and ordering him to cover additional costs because he was commercial fraud and false declarations. But like even on like like a humanistic approach, like that is mental. Like you're taking people's trust and selling it for cheaper products, and we know how the idea of pork is very dirty in the Muslim religion. I just thought that was mental. Like, and I thought if like that was in Ireland, I felt like it would have been a much bigger case.
yeah, I'd imagine like anybody like as part of that, like when he's him covering extra fees, I'd imagine like anybody who like has a receipt and has proof that they bought something in that shop 10 years ago will probably sue, and then
Oh,
he'll have to cover their
definitely.
core costs, like or he'll have to cover the solicitor costs or whatever like that. I imagine that's what that's getting at.
Mm,
And rightly so,
yeah.
fucking deserves it. Like
Like,
he deserves to pay that.
for me, like reading stuff like this, like I don't intentionally read the news prominently in Switzerland, but there's articles that kind of come up on my phone, or someone will tell me in work, and like I was talking to one of the lads in work about this situation, like had he heard about it, and he said like he actually hadn't heard about it before, but he was saying that a lot of the time in Switzerland, like they like to hide a lot of like major news that kind of can come out and like affect their, you know, their identity in Europe within the EU and the UN. So I think that may be why it
That
kind of
sounds a
got
little sus,
pushed.
if you ask me.
Yeah, a little bit of pushed
That
to the side.
sounds a little propaganda-ish, if you ask me. It's giving
Mm,
a bit of Kim Jong Un, or it's giving Donald
yes.
Trump in ways, like, not
Mm.
saying that Switzerland is like ends up with a fascism dictatorship,
Switzerland is the next
but
fascist
it's
country,
giving
yeah.
that energy, like.
I'll be coming home wearing swastikas. No, I won't. Don't worry. Don't cancel me. But yeah, I just thought that was mental. That was my current affair for the week. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to bring up in the news recently or something that you thought was worth talking about.
Yeah, well, once I saw you had pop culture current affairs covered, I was like, grand. Nothing
Sweet.
up. See, I was like, grand. I don't need to like sift through RTE or random like like Today FM being like, oh, what useless shite are they posting about now? Today FM are really bad for that, just posting shite, like being like, oh, dog took a piss in Leitrim. Like, okay. Like some of the stuff that like it's specifically the radio stations in Ireland post like on a slow news day. It's like really really sad. Like, it's
Yeah,
like, lads, like,
yeah.
why is this a post on Instagram? Like,
It's granny
why did I
news,
need to
like.
know about this? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. It's for the grannies, so that bingo they're talking about. Like it's
I think
very, very individual news. Like.
there's an interesting point there to be made. Like, you were saying, like, you don't keep up with the news much in Switzerland. Like, I'm the same. Like, and I like
No.
my nana and like some of my aunties and stuff think it's crazy that like I don't like watch the news, or like I don't like look at the news every day. You know,
Because it's negative.
this is it. It is all negative. It's all
Yeah.
depressing. Like, it just puts you in like a bad mindset. Like, people, like,
Mm,
I've come into work. Like, my boss is in his 50s, and like he'll be like, "Oh, did you see this happened?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like,
mm.
"How have you not read the news?" I'm like, "Unless this like was on like the opening
Social
page of
media.
my Instagram." Yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
social media, and it would have to be like within the first few, because there's a lot of shit, there's a lot of bullshit on social media as well. So you can't trust everything that you read on it.
Mm.
So like, and I don't follow like RT News or anything like that, because like they do post a lot of stuff that like I just don't find interesting. Like, like they'll post like 10 things a day, and one of those things might be of slight interest. Like, so I don't really like engage in that sort of stuff. But it's something that I think is like pretty common for our age. Like, Simone's the same. I'm pretty sure you and Nicola are the same. Like, it's a like generational thing that nobody really like watches the news
No, not
anymore
definitely
for our
not
age.
watches
Like,
or
not
race.
actively, like, like maybe like if there's something really intense going on, like, like I know like
Mm,
around election times and stuff, like I might be a bit more tuned in,
mm.
or like when there's I'm sure like it's like the equivalent of like when there's like something big going on in like the sports world or something like that, then I might kind of like perk my ear up and stuff. But otherwise, I just kind of I leave the negativity in negative world
Yeah.
and try and live my best life.
I made the decision like during COVID, like because everything was just so negative on the radio and on the TV and all over social media that I just like I couldn't do it anymore. I just decided to take a break. For me personally, like I just really keep up to date with like political issues in Ireland and then kind of any war current events. Like anything besides that, like I'm purely not really interested into. Of course, sports, but like most of the time, sports is just popping up on my Instagram feed. So personally speaking, it's majority of it is negative and propaganda. So I try to stay away from it as much as possible. But again, it is probably good in some sense to keep up to date with like world and current affairs
I think it's like
at some rate. But I feel like watching it every single day, it can definitely play effect on like your negativity towards the world and thinking
yeah.
that there's no hope and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like I find like with my grandparents, they're like, "Oh, did you see something happened in the school in Kerry?" And I'd be like, "No," but like
No.
like it'll be something upsetting, like something happened to a child or something happened to a
Yeah.
teacher or something like that, and like it's sad and it's upsetting, and like it is realistically probably something that we should be so aware of, so we can like look out for something happening to ourselves or somebody else, or
Mm.
to like warning signals and stuff. But like it is like I notice it then, like there's like a character thing of like then like people who are like, and this is just like from like the short kind of like sample of people that I know who like watch it every day and stuff, like like I notice them having like different like habits for you know when they are upset over those type of things, and like different like coping mechanisms and stuff, and it's just a generational thing mainly. Like, I think it doesn't like bother us as much, but then like when there is something like what's going on in Palestine and stuff, that like needs to be spoken about. I think then like we're the loudest voice then when something has to happen. Like you know, like and I gave the example there of like maybe something happened around schools. Like you only have to look at like I think it's Ashling Murphy, the case where like she was
Yeah.
abducted and killed or something like that. Like when that happened, like the people of our kind of generation like were super vocal about that sort of thing. Like
Mm.
so like I think with that, I think like our generation is in like a really healthy position with that kind of space. Instead of taking in too much information, we take in what's important and we focus on what's important.
Yeah. I think you're right. Hmm?
Cool. Right, well, we'll move on to your dilemmas for the week, guys. This is the section of the show where me and Imran read out anonymous messages that you guys have sent us in. And just to reiterate, these are all totally anonymous. I have no idea who sent these in. Imran gets these in and rewords them, shuffles them up, puts them into a big pile, changes the spelling, and changes the wording a little bit. So we have absolutely no idea who has sent these in. If you would like to send us a dilemma, you can send them to us on our Instagram page. You can send them at the Distance Dilemma podcast, or sorry, you can send them to the Distance Dilemma on TikTok and Instagram, and you can find us on email at the Distance Dilemma pod. If you want to be like super anonymous about it, you can make yourself a burner email and just send us the email and forget the password to it. Or if you want to send us a voice note as well, send that to us on Instagram. But anyway, we've got our two anonymous dilemmas for the week, and I think they're pretty good. So, Imran, I'll let you read out the first one.
Yeah. So, my parents don't really understand my lifestyle or goals. They're very traditional. I love them, but I feel like I'm constantly having to justify myself. How do you handle that cultural or generational distance?
Do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like me and Sean have kind of spoken before. Like a lot of the time, parents want to have a big control over their children's lives, and sometimes they can't get out of that as people get older. Like, of course, you don't know how old this person is that sent this in, but even at a young age, like a lot of parents like to control like what children have in their lives, and a lot of that time it can be due to like maybe family trauma that they had that they're maybe pushing on to their children. But like me and Sean have been saying the past couple of weeks, and it's funny enough because it's coming into a lot of the time conclusion of my life, is you need to put yourself first. I know culture and traditions can play a major aspect in families in terms of like what you can and cannot do, and maybe religion does play a factor into this. And maybe I'm just reading through the lines here, but I do think that the older generation do need to become a bit more aware that our generation has a lot more accessibility and opportunities to them. Either that be whatever concerts, TV, um, just there's a lot more opportunities for our generation. So I think it's really on your parents to maybe understand a bit more that these are the reasons why you have these in your life, and you maybe say to them like, look, this is what makes me happy, this is what I need in my life out of pure sanity. So like I feel like essentially a conversation might need to be had. I know the person has said that they're trying to have to constantly justify themselves, but I feel like it could be a thing where it might just have to be like, look, I'm going to do these things in my life. You either love me or not. It's kind of like, I don't want to say bringing them to like a dilemma and like that they have to pick between the both, but I feel like you do need to put yourself first, and for you to have common interests and common, interests in your life is really important. And I feel like if your parents love and respect you as much as they do, they have to understand.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Is it again like we kind of like I was going to touch on that as well, like about like putting yourself first and like being selfish in that way of expressing yourself and who you are, because and I know we've said this before, but I think it's like so important to reiterate it. It's like if you can't be there for yourself and you can't help yourself, you can't be there for other people, and if you're hiding these elements, I don't know whether like like you said, no idea who this person has, no idea what they're talking, like the specifics of their situation. But like I'm gonna just kind of give an example of like, is it maybe a sexuality thing, like if it's a culture thing, and like if it's a sexuality thing, like now this is just an
Mm-hmm.
example.
Reading through the lines, yeah.
But if it's a case of like you're like this person wants to come out as gay or bi or something like that, and their parents don't support those values, it's like, yeah, okay, but like that's not something you really get to choose. You are gay, you are bisexual, you are asexual, you are like whoever you want to feel. Sorry, whatever you are. That was bad phrasing. um, and like you have to be yourself. And I don't think it's quite like up to giving them like that ultimatum of like, this is who I am, like, or not, like, I do think like, it's like just kind of expressing, you know this is what makes me me. This is the person that I am, like, and like you're a result of their, like, parenting, like, in good ways and in bad ways, like, but you know I feel that just like I'm kind of like going in circles saying the same thing. Like, you have to be there for yourself, and you have to put yourself first. And I know I've kind of just said the same thing again, but like I feel like that's all that matters. Like, you need to be true to yourself. You
Yeah.
know, and with it being, you say it's a cultural generational thing. It's not an uncommon thing. But they're living a very different life to you. Like, and like especially like for some people, like some people's parents were able to buy their house on a one income. Like, it could have been a case of like, and this is just an example, by the way, as well. I'm not trying to say this is the way it should be done, but like, it was off. Like, it could have been a thing of like, oh, the man went out to work, the woman stayed at home, raised the kids, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not the world that we live in anymore. And
No.
even if that's not the case, like, the world that they grew up in 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever, is not the same as
No.
the world now. So it's very different. There's a lot more complexities to being a younger person in
Mm.
like in this day and age, like, so just, and it's like, it's also like from their perspective it is like a bit more confusing as well. I actually kind of had a conversation similar, not too similar to this, with my coworkers recently, and like, they were trying to tell their parents about something, but you have to go with your gut, and maybe not give them an ultimatum in that way, but just explain to them, this is what makes you you, this is what makes you happy, and this is
Mm.
what you're doing going forward. Like, I don't think it's as much as like they are your parents. Once you turn 18, you're your own adult, and you can make your own decisions, and you are in control of your own life.
Yeah. I feel like the adapting thing you kind of said there plays a major fact. Like, again, I think the older generation kind of forget that the world is constantly evolving, and not only them, but us as well are constantly trying to evolve and adapt to what's going on. Either that be with technology or workplaces or even meeting new people. Like, everything is always evolving and changing. And I feel like sometimes the older generation can be a little bit harsh and say things like there's a common misconception I've seen recently, like when I've been reading a lot of articles or like stuff through LinkedIn and stuff, that like our generation tends to have this lazy effect. I don't know if you've kind of heard anything
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
to this in workplaces and stuff, but I feel like their idea of lazy and their idea of like our generation kind of can be seen as a bit of a misconception, because like just because we weren't on sites working from 4 a.m. in the morning to 4 in the day and barely making bare minimum doesn't mean that there isn't people, studying and going to work and being there for their friends and family and walking the dog. Like, there's a lot of complexities that come into other people's lives as well. Like, I think the older generation needs to be kind of not be aware of, but like definitely take it into consideration when you're dealing with, you know, your grandkids, your children or whatever. So I think just from that standpoint, I do think there needs to be a bit of a line drawn and say like, look, this is you respect me, I respect you, when we go from there. But yeah, that's kind of like all I really have to talk about. Again, I think what Sean kind of said, which we've kind of been iterating the same point the past couple of weeks, is put yourself first above everything else. And yeah,
I have a bit of an example as well, just on one of the things you were
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
And I know we've got to wrap up soon, so
yeah,
I won't spend too long on it. But I had that like quite a lot with my mom in college, where like I would be doing, and because I studied music, I would quite often be like practicing guitar, or I would be like doing stuff. I'd be like recording little demos and stuff at home on my laptop, and like just doing like bits like that. And she would constantly be like, "What are you doing? Like, that's not like that's not work. Like, that's like." Like, her definition of work was different to mine. Like, for her,
mm,
work was getting up early, being out of the house, and like, going at a job. Whereas like, and while I was doing those things, like, when I was at home, I was also working on college stuff. And then also like, then once I finished college, then like, working on my own music. And like, that to me was like as important as work. But she didn't see it that way,
mm,
which again is a bit of a generational thing. But that there is that kind of like lost in translation bit as well, like, and like I feel like that's where, like, you kind of both need to meet in the middle, and like, where they, they need to have a bit more of an open mind, but then also, you know you need to kind of explain to them as well, like, and just try and find that middle ground.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, so we've another one here. I've been feeling like social media is making me compare my life to everyone else too much. I know it's fake, but it still gets to me. How do you deal with that? I'd like you to start with this one first, just because you're very vocal on social media and with chasing the music dream, so I think you might have a good perspective on this topic.
Yeah, I my like my biggest bit of advice for this is, honestly, don't follow people who you don't care about. And like, I mean that in the most black and white terms. Like, I mean that, like, if you had friends from school, or like people you just knew in school, people you shared the class with, people you followed back in the day, but you haven't spoken to in 10 years. I'm not like talking like what we have touched on before, of like, like friends that you only talk to once or twice a year, or like, people that you like have like affection for in some way. Like, I'm talking like people you haven't spoken to in 10 years that you still watch their Instagram stories. Like, unfollow those people. Like, people who aren't like bringing any sort of like value to your feed. And I think as well, like with influencers, that can be a big thing as well. Like, unfollow like influencers that aren't like having like an actively good, like, effect on your feed. Like, so, and like Simone, like, can be quite like, I don't want to say judgmental, but she notices this about me all the time, that like I sometimes, well, I often won't finish a full video on TikTok. And
Mm,
she go, why not? Because I don't want, like, and it's because, like, I'll see, let's say it's a band, for example, and it's a band that I'm not particularly fond of, and they've posted a video, and I just watch a bit of it and go on, and she's like, oh, what, you keep flicking past these videos. It's like, yeah, but I don't want like the algorithm to see that I'm finishing this video, so they'll recommend another video from the same band,
mm,
so then they'll keep throwing this band on my feed. And like, think about it like in like the algorithm as well. Like, if you, for example, um so how do I, let's say there's a particular influencer that you don't like, and you, like, and this like can be a thing about like hate comments as well. Like, just don't do them, because it's fucking silly and it's not nice, because what's the point in spreading negativity? But let's say you're somebody who hate comments on a particular influencer's video. When you comment on that post, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever, it goes, oh, Imran commented on video from influencer A.
mm.
Imran must like influencer A. So they'll keep throwing videos at you in that way. So like, and I really encourage people as well to like press like not interested on stuff. Like, I do that all the time with like stuff that comes up, that if I like know I don't like this influencer, if I don't like the like kind of topic they're talking about, I will actively go in and like press not interested, so that type of stuff comes up less. But I think like the nuts and bolts of this is like comparing yourself to other people. Unfollow people that aren't close to you. Like, I have like my music page, which is public for people, and I also have like a private Finsta kind of account. And like, and on that account, like, I regularly, like, I'd say once a month, go in, look at who I'm following, and decide, like, do I need to be following this person? Like, are they, actively, if they're posting loads like an influencer in that way, like, are they having like a good effect on me? Like, or if it's like somebody I haven't spoken to in like years, it's like, right, okay, well, do am I comfortable if I was to post something now with, like, what's going on in my life now, for them to know about that, even though I haven't seen them for 5 to 10 years? Like, just ask yourself little questions like that, I feel, will go a long way in helping with that type of kind of feeling around social media.
I think there's a lot of pressure on like with social media about comparing to especially influencers' lives, and like I know it's been talked about so much in the media over the years with like the Kardashians, for example. But I feel like it's kind of on yourself to prominently get out of the idea of like you have your own life to live. And I feel like our generation as well, like we always want to be like kind of like compared to someone. Like if you fought like Sean kind of was saying, they're like people that follow bands. They kind of fit into like like trend categories of what they want to be in. And the one thing I've kind of like been noticing a lot now, which I kind of like about social media, is more people are trying to be more authentic and make more authentic videos about themselves. Like there's a couple of like I'm not huge into the influencing game, but there is like two or three Irish influencers that I follow, and there's a reason that I follow them. Like I get some kind of, you know, serotonin or happiness from watching their videos. And I feel like that what Sean said there about following people that maybe you don't have contact with, or if you're just following them because you know them from school, like what benefit are you getting from like watching their videos or watching their photos that they put up? Like they're not in their lives anymore, so it really doesn't really make sense for you to follow them. And I feel like again, you when you see someone living this lavish life, in Thailand or Canada or Switzerland, for example, like I am, um, you can also feel like if you're not at that part of your life, you feel like you're not doing as good as them, and like a lot of negative thoughts can get into your head. And like definitely like the younger generation of I even think younger than us now, like they definitely will have a harder time dealing with these kind of like things as well as much as we did. But I feel for them, it's because there's so much now, and so much of it is in your face. It's hard to, you know, actually be able to find your authentic self. And I feel like it's still something like that is kind of ongoing for me as well. Like I think I'm only over the past year or so, kind of like really finding things that like I like, not just because I like it because, you know, my mates like it or someone else that I know likes it, and that's like a conversational start. And like that's why like we kind of talked about this before. Like a lot of people like don't watch football, but they just keep up to date with it because it's something that they can talk about with the lads and work, and like that is a known kind of thing. Like, and I even like I have two or three mates now like that I'm thinking of because like they don't watch football, they never have, but they just they keep up to date with it because they have like a conversational start. So I feel like social media puts a lot of pressures and algorithms onto you, so it's kind of on you to try reduce it as much as possible. Like Sean was saying there, flicking off the TikTok videos or unfollowing people that maybe you followed from school or social media. And I think once you do that, then things become a lot easier to find things that when you are on social media that you can watch things that you're interested in. Like for Sean, it might be like script readings or film reviews. Like for me, maybe it might be like I don't know, music or football reviews, or there's different things. Like you just need to find your niche that you like, and I feel like social media becomes a lot of a better place for you because often the biggest thing, and I did this in my thesis about like the contrast of like a male dominance performance. If like this is how you should be, you should be this manly man, not speak about your emotions, treat your wife like she's a Ferrari, these kind of Andrew Tate style things. Once you can get away from them, and it is hard because it's so much on the younger generation's feeds that it's essentially it's propaganda, and it's building on the younger generation for them to think that way. So once you can get away from all that noise, social media can be a very good place for people.
Yeah, like I think like it can be a useful tool. You just need to know how to play. It's like a system that you need to
It's a
learn how
game.
to get the most
Yeah.
from. Like
Yeah.
um like I like you were saying there, like I think it's really important to like find your niche and like what, like when you go onto Instagram or you go onto TikTok, like what are you going on for? I think like that's the big question of like
I think
where
that's
you
called
like.
purposey scrolling or something like that. I've
Yeah,
seen
and like
something.
I'm all like I'm not like trying to diss people who doom scroll. I doom scroll daily,
Yeah,
right? But like
same.
I also kind of like know, like like I've gotten into bad habits over the couple of years that I've been on TikTok now. What, like 5 or 6 years that TikTok's been popular, and you can be doom scrolling, but without kind of purpose. Like I now kind of know, okay, I'm gonna go on and just I need to just kind of unplug for a few minutes. Like whereas you can go on and have the intent of like looking up something and like researching something, like because like social media is like a tool in that way. Like TikTok really really good for that. Like if you need to like like it's something that's come to head. It's like cooking recipes or how to
Yeah.
fix a flat tire, or
Hmm.
how to like it's like the Googleification of things, and like ChatGPT is quite big for that as well. But sometimes you need like a visual reference, and like that's like one of the things social media is great for
Yeah.
as well. And like it's also so important to note as well. There's very few people who on social media who are authentically posting their bad days. So
Yeah.
many people, everyone, and like I'm just as guilty of this as well. Like you only post the good stuff. Like you only
Of
post
course.
when your team, you share something on your story when your team wins something, or you post about your holiday, or you post about you went to you went to brunch with your sister, your brother, with someone, blah blah. Like they're only posting those nice things, but like that doesn't mean everything's rosy in their lives, and I often find that like it's the people who are posting so much like that are trying to compensate for something happening, like, you know. So
Definitely.
you know, everyone's situation is different, and some people are posting because they're happy and they just want to share it as well. Like, you know, it's not. I'm not saying if someone's posting a lot they're miserable. Like, not that at all. Um, but there's just like that side to it as well. But like we were saying, like, you know, kind of evaluate who you're following. You know, and
Mm.
what's the reason you're following them? Like, are you following them because they're your friend? Are you following them because you think they're good crack? Are you following them for their content because you like what you see? And like there's no harm in following influencers that you say, I'd like to have that type of life, and have those visual reminders of like, oh, if I want to have this life, I need to do X, Y, and Z. It's
Mhm.
not a bad thing to have those things there inevitably, like, you know, but just kind of think on the wider context of what effect this is having on you as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think more just like relation back to the questions, like how do you deal with that? I think like kind of use what me and Shaun use as like a blueprint, like unfollow the people, follow people you have interests in that you have the same similarities, things. And then also just like realize that social media is just a game. It's also just a bit of fun. And
Mm.
like you can use it for like Sean said, like prominently scrolling, like so you're using scrolling to things that actually are useful in your life, like maybe it's fixing a tire or changing a light bulb or whatever, like, but like prominently things that like you actually get use out of is also a good idea. And then like for me, like how do I deal with it? I think just try like live your own life. Like when you're on social media and you're posting stuff, like don't post just because someone else, you know, posted that they were here in this situation and it's cool to post there. Like if you had met up with your friends at the weekend, you want to go a couple of photos up, put them up, show other people that you know you met up and stuff. And like also I think it's kind of nice as well, like when you see like when you're following your friends and you see that they met up and you're like, oh, that's good that they met up and stuff like that. So like I don't think there's a natural I think sometimes like people put like a negative effect, you know, when people put up photos with their friends and stuff like that. Like I essentially like you're showing a virtual photo album. You know, if you look at it in that way, it's just digitalized. So it's the same thing. I think again, like there's a misconception online about, you know, people posting up a lot of photos as well. So like if you want to post the photos up, post the photos up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me the only advice I say is like live your own life and then use the other kind of advices we had used before.
Yeah, and something that I just want to touch on as well before we
Yeah,
wrap
yeah,
up
of course.
is like, I think there's like a kind of like almost like social peer pressure to be following people, you know. And like an example is like when you start a new job or you come into a new environment and everyone's like swapping Instagrams and stuff. Like, you don't have to follow those people. Like I
No.
can be quite like that. Like, if someone asks for my Instagram, I'll give them my music one, but I won't give them my personal one yet. I give them my personal one when I'm ready. Like I said there, like once I know them a bit more and once I kind of trust them a little, to be like, oh yeah, like we're friends, like, you know. Now I don't really post a lot anyway. Like, if it wasn't for my music, I honestly probably wouldn't really have social media except for Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, is the funniest social media platform, and I will die on that hill. I've been saying that for years, and it's full of right wing lunatics, and it's full of left wing lunatics as well. It's full of people of all extremes, but it is so funny. Like the day, like last week when Troy Parrott scored, Twitter was like having a field day. Like when like kind of big events happen, Twitter's great. But anyway, enough of me licking Twitter's arse. Um, you know, like don't be afraid. Don't feel you have to give in to that kind of social peer pressure as well. Like, you know, if someone does, then like, you know, say it's an Instagram follow request. Like, don't be afraid to just go, no, I don't want you to follow me. Like, why? And if they like, no, not, it's very rare for someone to come up to you in person and go, sorry, I saw you rejecting my follow request there. Why did you reject
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
And if they
yeah.
do, just go, mind your business. I didn't want you to follow me. Like, you know,
Literally.
it's not that deep. You know, it
No.
really isn't. Like, you know, just like, oh, I'm just like really private with my Instagram. We just met. You know, maybe in future. You know, go
Good
and
advice there
subscribe
for
to
blocking
accepting a
people.
follower request on Instagram.
Yeah, that's gonna be his our video clip for next week. This is how you unsay no.
But yeah, I think are you happy to?
I have nothing left to say on the topic. I feel like we've left the blueprint for our listeners and they can follow it.
Yeah. Grand. Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in to episode number 41 of the Distance Dilemma podcast. My name is Shaun. I'm in Dublin, Ireland. This is Imran. He's been in Thun, Switzerland. This is our long distance friendship podcast. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the Distance Dilemma, 6 a.m. Irish time, 7 a.m. Central European time. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will chat to you again next week. Goodbye.